Come on. There we go. Okay, we're back up. Damn, OBS crashed. And for some reason, I don't know, they changed some of the way stuff is set up in YouTube. So it's like, I don't know, they changed some of the way that stuff's managed. So when it crashes, it automatically like ends the stream. It's weird. But we're back up. So, okay. So where was I at? Oh yeah, so you gotta put in all your nuts early. So in the manual, we wrote down basically where they go, how many you have to put in, etc., etc., how many holes you got to tap, where you got to tap them, etc., etc. Where you got to put your holes in the bed, how to put the rails in. So we try to lay everything out to make it as error-proof as possible, because during dev, you have no idea how many times this frame was fully put together and then completely ripped apart because, oh, we have to add some more nuts here and there. And yes, tonight I'm going to be saying nuts a lot. So I guess, starting off here, we start with the bed. As I said, I've never actually built this following the manual. So I am going into this blind on purpose. So it looks like I need some bed components here. So it is saying I need to trim. Oh, that color's ugly. Let me fix the color on this camera here. And a little bit better. Okay, so it is saying we have to trim out this little bit of plastic on this piece right there. So we're going to do that first. Just use my X-Acto. That's it. The only reason this part is there is a lot of people have warping issues with this really small part right here. Let's see if I can get the angle. Yeah. So you can see that wire channel there is really not a lot of meat there. So a lot of people had it warping off their bed. So we just added this trimmable part just to make it a little bit easier. It's just cosmetic. Dark Nitro, the stream crashed. I had to restart it. Well, Vin Lee asking, will I do a switchwire build? Done. That's where I've been the past little while. In case you were wondering why I went a couple weeks without streaming. I was working on that guy, and can't stream stuff that's not public yet. Yes, if you have the LDO kit, it comes pre-drilled and tapped, but again, I bought this frame almost a year and a half ago now, is when work on Vzero started. Originally, it only needed 4 extrusions, so a lot's changed. So, we need to attach our chain, it looks like. So I got the 2 pieces here. So we have some M3 button heads and some hexas. Oh, nice. Yeah, I just use button heads because I have a crap ton of them. I'm also dropping everything. So which way is up? I want to make sure I don't put this on upside down. Done that before. And I need my... Where are my button heads? There's my button heads. I'm going to super glue these in place once I get them in. I really don't want to chase these nuts around all the time. Where are they? I sort of cleaned up everything, so I got stuff everywhere right now. Yeah, we are back. Voron design, that's RCF, that's Max, who doesn't have a Vzero. Tisk tisk. No, we are following the manual pretty much exactly. So right now it's saying put the drag chain on the bed portion. I'm putting the drag chain on the bed portion. I got a feeling the first stream probably won't be much except me putting a frame together. But I think we go through the whole bed assembly first. Okay. So, we have that port done. And then we attach the two sides to the rails. The rails. So the question is, which one of these rails were my Z rails? And which one of these were my XY? Let's find out. I think they're all the same. Oh no, these are different lengths. So let's see here. Oh no, they're the same. It's these ones. Yes, the Vzero, it's hilarious because it is the smallest printer and it is the most complicated. You have to follow the order of operations when it comes to building this, or you will be in trouble. So M28s are what I need. So I need to get 4 M28s right away. Let me orientate this the same as the manual so I'm not... Is that right? That's got to be right. Where's my M2 screws? That looks like I'm digging through here. Now with the small screws, a little bit of a pro tip, if you use Allen keys with balls on them, try not to use the ball end when tightening the screws. because the ball end has less material, you are more likely to strip the screws. So you really want to try to avoid using the ball end when you go to tighten these as much as possible. Obviously you can't all the time, but you want to try and do it as much as possible. I really should have sorted all these out. Where did my M2 screws go? Spent all night looking for screws. Oh. I'm gonna load this button head. There we go. There we go. Correct, kilobit. The holes are different type. I have that sorted out. What 3D printer do I have behind my back? I got a V2, I got a switchwire, and then I got another V2 that's actually on the ground right now. Well, on a small bench, because I am running out of room for printers. And yes, that's the switchwire, which was what we announced last week. I'll go more in depth in that one maybe after we build for a bit. I kind of got a feeling I'll be asked about it quite a bit tonight. Yes, it is dual extrusion. So it basically just has a Y splitter built into the tool head. Nothing super fancy. And I'd show off some prints, but I haven't been able to actually get it to function properly yet. I'm having issues with jamming. It's not quite consistent to the point where it's a public release yet. It's just something to try, basically. It's just a Y splitter setup, basically. That's why I built the switchwire. It's a more forgiving platform. If you want to just try something new, it's easier to. It's a simpler design, so changing stuff isn't as complicated as a Core XY. And then also, just the form factor lends itself to dual feed, dual extrusion a little bit better than a Core XY. It's basically a test bed for me. Yeah, it is Bowden, but you can. This is the one full print I have off of it. You can print fine with Bowden, especially with Clipper once you have your pressure advance and all that tuned. Bowden's fine, just you have to spend more time tuning it than direct feed. And it's not obscenely long like a 350mm V2 Bowden would be. Funny, that's the only completed print I have off that because I've been playing with dual extrusion since I got it up. And I can't get one to finish. They just keep jamming on me. Okay, So we have these parts on the rail. Now we need to start putting our bed together. So I kind of cheated. I left the bed mostly together. So this goes on. Line up. There we go. So M38. I don't know why we spec button head there. I gotta put some nuts in here. And if anyone's curious what the all the screws and whatnot for a Vzero look like, this is all of them. So I'm sure you guys don't want another stream of watching me put screws away. I've already done that once before. Okay, so that's 8 mil. Those are shorter. A V2.1. Old school. Dang it. Actually, I think this might be a problem. Yeah, I need 10 mils here. Open beams aren't the same. There we go. And then in the front we got M312. Is there bed warp when a V2 is heating? It is a big bed, but we spec a cast aluminum tooling plate, which is cast aluminum. So it handles the thermal stresses better than just like a generic plate that you normally see on most like 3D printer beds. So while warping is a thing, it's not that big of an issue, and it'll take a long time and a lot of thermal cycling before your bed starts to actually like go bad. Like even right now, the bed on 26 back here is 2 years old. It's got thousands and thousands of print hours on it, over 10,000 easily. And I think now I have to run a bed mesh because the middle is bowed down. I think it's like 0.15 mil. or something like that. Just enough that I can't run just a straight, just the straight tramming routine. I do need to run a very minor mesh, just so my first layers are perfect. Okay. So we got that part done. Oh, hey, look, we already have this part done. Okay, so now we're attaching this already. Okay, so anytime you see the pink, that's how many nuts you need to put in. So, looks like I actually got to take this apart because I need to put some nuts on the side here. Just hoping I can leave this together. Oh well. Is the bed restrained on the mounts? On the V2, a lot of people just run it straight mounted to the extrusions. If you pull up the CAD, you can see how it is. And usually you just mount it with 3 points. And, well, it's not like a, what's the fancy mounts people are using now, the dynamic or whatever they are. Live mounts where it's like a ball bearing on a magnet or whatever. It's not, you know, as unconstrained as that, but it's really not a major issue. Okay, let's see here. Center this back up. Or kinetic, yeah. Like, you can do kinetic mounts. So I have seen some people mod, put their V2 bed on a kinetic mount. But, again, I've been running mine without a kinetic mount for over 2 years, and I haven't had any issues. So, it's a fixed bed. It doesn't move, so you don't need to worry about, you know, tramming it or moving it around. Pink note, yes. So if you look at the manual, anytime you see an extrusion with this little pink number pointing at it, like 1x there, 2x there, that's how many M3 nuts you have to put in there before you move on to the next step. Otherwise, you're going to have a bad time. So we got our 2 in there. So 2 in the bottom here. And then a little trick, if you're constantly worrying about like the nuts flying out while you're assembling, just grab some random screws, and if you got like 6 nuts in a channel, just put a screw through the nuts in like the center or whatever, so that way when you're handling it, they don't go anywhere, and they'll keep them all in place until you get the frame together, and then you can take the screws out, and then you don't have to worry about them flying out. Which, if you watched me take this apart last week or 2 weeks ago, we were chasing down M3 nuts everywhere. I think I almost killed my vacuum with them. And we gotta put 6 in the back here. Are they stainless steel or zinc? They are whatever cheap Chinese AliExpress provided me. So they're probably made out of pots and pans. But I have silver extrusions, all black printed parts. Well, black and orange. And I want the screws to stand out, so I just bought... What I do is I have access to Fastenal through work, so I can bulk order black oxide screws all day. But when it comes to uncommon stuff, just get the like the little packs. You can get them on Amazon or AliExpress. So like for switchwire, the BOM is very minimal. So what you can easily do is just buy like a pack of M38, buy 100 of them, and then just buy like 1 or 2 packs of M3 generic sizes, M5 generic sizes, and the M8s. And there's all your screws with plenty of extras. So that's what I did for switchwire. I actually had enough stock, luckily, that I didn't have to go hunting down the Fastenal guy on a weekend for screws. Okay, so we got all our nuts are in and they're captive. So yeah, so if you're ever worried about the nuts going flying, just put a screw on the end nuts, and that way, when you're building it, they don't go flying everywhere. Okay. So now we need to attach this. So before we do that, we gotta put 2 more nuts in. And then we slide these in. So M38 I just had a bunch. Right. I know I have a whole pack of M38s. I gotta go grab it. And this is the annoying part with using M3 nuts. Unfortunately, you can't use like spring nuts or whatnot, so you can't really hold them in place. Like that's a good thing with spring nuts. You can kind of put them in position and then line your part up. But with the M3 nuts, they just kind of they pull a Bilbo and they just go on adventures sometimes. Where'd you go? Stay in position. There we go. 1. There we go. M3. Honestly, rebuilding switchwire, I don't think I will, because it's a really simple build. Like every part is like 3 components, if that. Like I'll pull it up near the end of the stream so you guys can get a close look at it. But your XZ idler, your upper idler, is 2 parts and 2 bearing stacks. Your XY joint or your XZ joint is 2 printed parts and 2 bearing stacks. Your Y motion is 1 part in the front, a rail, and 2 parts at the back that the motor attaches to, and some bearings. Like it is like surprisingly simple how little plastic there is in that machine. I built mine, the hardware portion of it for the gantry, in like an hour and a half, 2 hours on an afternoon with no manual, just threw it together. It is a very simple build. And I screwed up. I put the screw that goes down in first instead of the side screw. I gotta put the side screw in. So So he's got to come back out. Yay! Oh, this is going to be annoying. Oh, this is going to be... This is the most annoying part of this build, is the bed. So... that stays in there. So actually we're going to put this side one in. Okay. And then we put the vertical one in. While we shake it around to line up our screw. There we go. There we go. And then we do the other side. NerQ20, thank you, man. Appreciate it. I hope you're enjoying the stream tonight and the build. I know it's a little bit of a slow start, but it usually is. It's usually, you know, starting out with the frame. And as always, I say it anytime somebody donates, I appreciate it. Any donations go pretty much right into the either streaming equipment pot or more stuff to build for streams. So far donations have paid for the camera and the cam link. I'm still paying those off technically, but that's why I built the switchwire, because I wanted a printer to play around with to try stuff on stream, and it's a more standard design, so we'll be able to do certain things that I can't do with a Voron for instructional videos, such as how to make a really cheap enclosure to print ABS. Hint, it's the box your printer came in. So, thank you, NearQ. Appreciate it. Okay. So, let's see here. Can you use V-slot for switchwire? Yes. So, the reason you can't use V-slot on a V2 or V1 is MGN9 rails won't sit in a V-slot flush. However, an MGM12 rail is wider than an MGN9, so this will sit flush on V-slot. Switchwire is a scratch build design. It's designed not to be, or it's not based on an existing printer modified. So it's not like a Prusa Bear or any of the other like based on designs. It's a scratch build design, but it's designed to be able to use components cannibalized from another printer. So say you have an old Ender 3 or a Mark II Prusa or any other standard Mendel's i3 style printer, you can just get slightly different extrusions. You can reuse your bed, you can reuse your motor, you can reuse your controller, your power supply. It's meant to use what you have to kind of bootstrap it into a better printer or scratch build if you want to do it from scratch. I will stream about the switchwire. I may take the gantry apart, but I'm not going to do a full teardown. Because literally it would be one stream of building it and then 4 streams of electronics. So I'll probably do a stream on the actual hardware of it after we finish the Vzero build. Okay, so we got the bed together, mounted. Scroll down a bit. Okay, so those are in. So now we got to put the bottom ones in. There we go. Any recommendations on a heatsink for a Raspberry Pi 4? When you buy your SKR, it usually comes with a bunch of heatsinks. If you got an extra one, just slap it on. It's just a generic aluminum. I run all my electronics bays with a little bit of cross-flow air. So really it should get a little bit of cooling. You don't need massive cooling, right? Especially if you start running like mainsail, you're not stressing your Pi that much. How is it look on Voron? Okay, so a lot of Prusa Mark III users have problem with first layer. How it looks on Voron, the printer has the same bed mounting method. Oh, if you're talking about the switchwire, unfortunately I haven't done full bed prints yet. I know Russian Cat Food has. But I haven't had any issues with the bed mesh. It does do a bed mesh routine. And it is a fixed frame bed, or a fixed mounted bed, so you're not manually leveling the bed. It's all done through a mesh. But so far, I haven't had any issues with first layer. So I do need more testing on it, because literally all I've been playing with is dual extrusion on it. So, okay, so we got these two M38s in. So where are we next? Oh, I got those ones in already. Kind of got ahead of myself there. Okay, now the ones in the back. I remember these ones being an absolute pain. Yes, yes they are. So, and M312. So what I'm going to do is I need to feed two into each one. So I'm actually going to take these screws that I use to hold everything in place and move them inwards to lock the two middle ones in place. Because another thing you want to be careful of when you're building this thing is you don't want to have like a floating screw or a floating nut. So you don't want to build it and accidentally have a random M3 nut just kind of floating somewhere, because it will rattle and you might not be able to get at it and it'll be super annoying. Trust me on that. M312. It's always useful to have a screw or a ruler around, a metric ruler, just to make sure your screw lengths are right. Especially when you're pulling them out of a random bin like I am. Okay. So, it can be an issue with these ones where the screw can actually come out through this little where your spring pocket is. So you can get it back in, but it is kind of a pain. Jody Way 50. Appreciate it, man. Thank you very much. I hope these are helping. If you have any questions, like, ask away, man. I appreciate all the support you guys give me, and I'm always thankful. Thank you. There we go. Okay. Thank you very much, man. There we go. Oh, lost another one. Let me see here. Let me catch up on chat. If using the Prusa heated bed on switchwire, why not the Pinda? You can use the Pinda. We do have a mount for the Pinda in the STL file. It's called the Pinion because it kind of looks like a minion. So there is nothing stopping you using the Pinda. Now, the problem with the Pinda is the sense distance isn't the greatest. So if you look at the way the bed is, because we're utilizing more of the build volume of the bed than a Prusa, you have to be careful of the back portion where the wires hook up to the PCB bed, because there's a little cover plate over it. And if you're using the Pinda, you might not have the sense distance to clear it. So you might lose some Y print volume. But then also, I know a reason a lot of people use the Pinda is because it has the built-in temperature sensor, so you don't have to worry about like drift. However, the key to drift, and this is after using inductive probes on my Vorons for like 2 years now, the key to drift is consistency. So if you're printing ABS all the time, always heat your bed up with your probe sitting like 10 mil, 15 mil above the bed for like 10 minutes, and then run your probe routine. As long as you run your probe routine with the probe roughly at the same temperature, you don't have to worry about drift. So since I run, my V2s, I run pretty much nothing but ABS. I have the exact same routine every time I probe, and I don't have to worry about drift. Now on the V2s and the V1, it's different because we have the micro switch for setting your offset, so you don't have to worry about drift. But on switchwire, I do the same thing. Now I'm only printing PLA so far on the switchwire; it's not enclosed. But I do the same thing where I heat it up to a point, I let it sit for a minute or a couple minutes until the probe gets to an ambient temperature, basically, and then I run the probe routine, and then I haven't had to worry about wandering first layer, because on the switchwire, you just have the inductive probe or the Pinda. You don't have a separate micro switch. So it's not really an issue, as long as you're consistent. So yeah, that's why we spec the Omron. I'm just using a generic Photech PL05 on switchwire, and it's working fine. Bed skew. As long as your frame is square, you shouldn't really have to worry about skew. As long as the frame and then the your y-axis and your x-axis are parallel or perpendicular to each other, you shouldn't have to worry about skew, I believe. And yeah, anything that's Prusa firmware specific is really a non-issue. Again, we run Clipper. So. Okay, so we got that portion done. Make sure everything's tight. Okay, so we are good there. Go back to the manual. Yeah, skew is one of the things. I don't think I've ever had a skew issue on any printer I've ever had. But I'm sure some people do, and if there is a way to fix it, there's obviously nothing wrong with that. But it's not really something I've ever encountered. Okay, so I guess we're going on to the lead screw here. So, let me move the bed out of the way here. So I got my lead screw. So on this one, obviously, I hacked the nut myself. It's brass, so if you have any sort of grinder or even a good file, a bastard file, you can easily do the modification to the T-nut yourself. It's not hard to do. Now, as for the lead screw I'm using, it is not the spec one. I can't recall off the top of my head what spec is. But this is like a 2-start 4mm pitch or something like that. It's odd. It's like 400 steps a millimeter. It's on 800 or whatever spec is. It's half of whatever spec is. But I bought it a while ago. It's straight. I use it. Whatever. It's fine. So, get this guy. Now, I can't remember if I ever actually broke it. So, yeah, this one's stiff. See if I got another one. No, I do not. Oh, so I guess I'm going to use this guy. I know some people are having issues with wandering or lead screw wobble on this. So if I do encounter lead screw wobble, once we get this thing built, I'll go over some common tricks on how to fix it. And if I don't have lead screw wobble, I'll probably induce it so we can fix it. So. Yes, the lead screw, there is alternative stuff kind of being looked at to solve the lead screw issue. I know a lot of people have issues with it. So it is something we are actively kind of keeping an eye on, if you catch my drift. Okay, so do they just all stack on top of each other? I guess they all just stack on top. Oh no, we do have a gap. Loctite set screw. Now I do have, yeah, there is play. Okay, I don't have to break it. Now, especially with these little set screws, you really want to be careful not to strip them. If you strip them, you're going to have fun trying to drill these out. Oh yeah, I gotta take the nut off. Okay, so we have this, that, a printed spacer, which I did see, I got it somewhere. I have it somewhere. Uh-oh. Ah, there it is. There we go. Needs belted Z. So the keychain thing is pretty new. Like, we only sorted that thing out like a month and a half ago. As for the reason the Vzero is lead screw versus belted, it actually worked out, like, this is as of a year ago, so I don't know if it's still the same, but as of like a year and a half ago when we were, like, design was starting on this thing, it worked out cheaper. It was cheaper and more compact to use a lead screw. Versus a belted. Okay. So we got that is built up. And then my 110 belt loop, which we got right here. Over top. And then we put on push the 20-tooth plus spacer plus bearing into motor mount and tighten set screw. Okay, I can do that. In that case, I'm going to put the this guy in first. There we go. Now, if I remember correctly, these go through here. And I think it's in 5 nuts. Now, I think these spec M5 by 35, but I don't have those. They're not actually something I have in stock. So I just use 40 mil M540, and they just stick out the top a little bit, but it's a non-issue. Do you feel that there is a limit to how small you can make the printer and still get all the features you desire? Pretty much about 120 millimeters is about as small XY as I would go for build volume. Z, roughly about the same. Smaller than that, there's a lot of objects you can't print. Like, I started on a monoprice select MIDI, which was 120 millimeters cubed, and I printed my whole V1 on it. So you can do quite a bit with small printers, but that's about as small as I would realistically go, because smaller than that, you're going to have trouble finding beds, you're going to have trouble finding stuff that's compatible with it, and you're going to be building basically a lot of print. Like, there's only so cheap of a printer you can build. Like, you can't build a printer cheaper than you can buy an Ender 3, for example. So you're not really getting a good return on your investment, if you catch my drift. If you go smaller than like about 120. Okay, so we got that there. Oh, okay, I skipped ahead. I already got this part done. I got the M5s in, so that's all attached. Now, one common thing with Z wobble, I know that, with the lead screw. Basically, you might have to crack these nuts, or these screws, the M5s, if the, you might need to like let the pillow block bearing here kind of find its home, because if this is out with this, that would make your lead screw on an angle. So that's just one of those things to keep in mind if you got issues with wobble. So tighten these up. Cam it. There we go. And then also watch out for Dunar's cursor here. You got to pay attention to that in the manual. Okay, so we got a 20 tooth. So we're going to put that in like that. And then a NEMA. So I guess we build the whole Z module assembly before we install it. That's not how I had mine, so. And then M38s. All the M38s. Is there any advantage of Core XY over HBot on such a small printer? The smaller the printer, the lighter it is, so any issues that get compounded by just mass, you're going to see less issues. HBot, I know, has issues with, because it's not Core XY, it's H belting, whatever that is. I can't remember. It's been a while since I looked at the HBot. I'm pretty sure it's not Core XY, it's like the belt's running an H path, and I know that is more... You have more issues with racking, I believe. But in terms of, you know, are there any advantages? I have a lot more experience with Core XY. I'm going to, personally, I think it's better. But I've never used an HBot, so I can't really comment on it. I'd have to take a look at like how the design is and does it scale smaller? Because I know for the size of a Vzero and its print volume, you're going to be hard pressed to try and max out the same print volume to printer volume that a Vzero has. See if you can find all the cursors. Yes, like where's Waldo? Okay, so actually I gotta loosen this up and line these up. I gotta spin this middle shaft. That'll be fun. Let's see here. I know I have some pliers. That worked. There we go. Okay, so right now I'm just lining up everything, make sure the belt's not rubbing on anything when it spins. There we go. And then in all your set screws, you should be using Loctite. I'm reusing what I have, and they have like the remnants of, I think these ones have Vibratite on it, so they just hold in place. I don't need to reapply it. Differences between the M2 hex adapter parametric and the adapter rotated. I think one's just easier to print than the other if you're having issues. They're basically just to hold the M5 nuts in place, or the M2 nuts in place while you put your rails in. So you print it, you put your nuts in it, and then you flip it upside down so that the meat of the plastic is between, it's basically a sandwich of M2 nut, plastic, extrusion, and then your rail. Okay? So I think the ones that have it where the nuts are, the flats are parallel with the direction of the nuts, has more metal on metal contact, I believe. But I have the design where it's like corners sitting on the nuts, and it's a non-issue. It's just print whatever one prints better on your printer. There we go. Okay, so that moves nice and smooth. So we have this assembled. So we take the our little lead screw nut holder, put that in, M312s. One. Nope. There's two. Now you notice they're for these, you put the screw through, and then there's a nut that you have to put on the bottom. I'm thinking, how are you making money on Voron project? You could have as big of a company as Prusa. We don't want to. We're doing this for fun. This is a hobby for pretty much all of us. The only ones that quote unquote make money off this are like the guys who do the PIF program for supplying parts, and it's really not profitable. It's mostly break even with maybe a little bit of beer money on top of it, and like people like me who do the streams and the help videos, and there's donations. It's not about making money. This is a hobby for us. So we have fun doing this. We don't want to make it a business. Pretty much all of us have careers already. Plus, especially now in today's market. So say we wanted to make Voron, right? We wanted to make Voron the big next printer, right? The next Prusa. How's PrinterBot doing? Because basically the problem is the vast majority of people will still buy a $200 Ender over anything we would put out. And then Prusa already has the market cornered on pretty much good mid-priced prosumer, not even prosumer, consumer level printers. So we would have to basically come out of nowhere and take Prusa on directly and take their whole market share to make it even. And Voron, for those who build them, no, they're not that cheap. So imagine tacking on supply chain, warehousing, assembly, testing, and all the other costs that come from mass producing and selling a printer. You're looking at $3,000. So now we're fighting, MakerBot, Replicator, like all those, ForumBot, other top tier printer manufacturers. It would not go good. So yes, we do this for fun because of that reason. Okay, so where are we? Am I actually putting this on right now? No, I'm not putting this on right now. Oh, I'm just getting this ready. Well, I'm going to put it on anyways. I don't care. I'm just putting the T-nut on. Pretty sure it goes this way. M312s. Put it in for now, just so I don't lose it. Okay, put that aside. Okay, back to the manual. Yes, Nurq, you're putting my kid through college, man. Yeah, the group buys. Those of us that live up in Canada and the countries that are unfortunate to get all that fun stuff. I wish I can get some KVP plastic, believe me. Okay, so I'm putting an extrusion through the bottom here. Which one is this? Do we call it up top? Let me see here. So that is 200 millimeters long with nothing in it, just tapped ends, it looks like. Okay, so which one of these is 200 with just taps ends? I believe it's this guy. They're all 200. Why am I checking the size? I know they're all 200. Okay, so back to the manual. Oop, too far. Yeah, I think we'll probably just get the Z assembled today. I'm going to have to go print a back panel. So, we have that goes through. Oh, I see. So that just sits there? We don't actually attach it right yet? Okay, I guess we don't attach it yet. So what are those? Those are M36 Button Heads. I should have a ton of those, I believe. If I can find them. Because I don't think the socket head don't fit. I might not actually have enough. There we go. No, that's not him. Yeah, that's 8. think all these ones are the ones that went flying when I took it apart. Oh, there we go. There we go. There's two. So these just slide on. And what they are is it's just an M36 with a nut on it. And you slide those in, and then you slide another extrusion down on top of it. And then you put your Allen key through the clearance hole and screw them together. Let's see here. How would you have a 110, 230 volt heat bed on a switchwire custom machine bed? At this point, we spec a PCB bed. So this guy's running a 24 volt bed, and we're speccing a 24 volt bed because having a mains bed flapping around, pretty much nobody does it. You're going to have to basically go all custom for that. And at that point, we're not going to recommend it just for safety reasons. So all of us are running 24 volt, basically Prusa beds, the Mark 52. But I know if you have like an Ender bed kicking around or any sort of PCB bed that you already have, you might as well use it unless you want to go with a Mark 52. You don't need to use a Mark 52 bed. I'm using the Triangle Labs one. The PEI for it isn't the greatest. It's that black textured on both sides sheet that comes with it, but it works fine. It just, I find like real PI better. Okay, so we are going to slide this assembly on. That's why I can't put this on it yet. Okay, so it's showing here on the manual that you basically take your bed with extrusions and rail assembly, you slide them on, and then you tighten it down, okay? So what you're going to be doing whenever you have to do this, you're going to be using your ruler and your scale, and you're going to make sure that everything is centered. So what you kind of do is just put one on, get it slightly snug enough that it doesn't move, but enough that you can still move it when you push with it. And you're just going to go through and make sure everything's centered. Because if it's not centered, in this case, stuff won't line up. You're going to lose some print volume. Not going to be good. So if you have the CAD up, what you can do, I don't have the CAD loaded right now, but if you have the CAD, you can just use the measurement tool built into most CAD software and get your proper sizes. Or you can just use your scale and just measure each side. The Mark 52, yeah, the Mark 52 heats up relatively quick. Like it heats up roughly in the same amount of time that, you know, my V2 bed does, and it's PWM'd, right? So it's not running at max capacity because you don't want to run the beds at max capacity because you can cause premature wear. So 6, 5, so I'm going to go down like that. So 58 mil. Yeah, 58. That's about right. Now you might have to go through as you get further along in the assembly of this and square up some stuff, so you know, loosen some nuts here and there, make sure everything's lined up perfectly. Like right now, okay, everything still moves kind of okay. So Wait a minute. So, I think our manuals... Do we have an issue with the manual here? No, I just put the bed together upside down. Yay. I'll fix that later. Yep, I put the bed together upside down. How did I put the bed together upside down? Okay. Yep. So you're going to see something really yeah, I think it's just the way that the black and white like pictographs show. It's pretty easy to put it on backwards. So YOLO. Actually, okay, that's how you take your bed off completely, put it back on without losing any ball bearings. Okay, so we're back in business. I have taken rails, carriages off rails more times than I can count. You kind of get a little bit of a feel for it after a while. I honestly don't recommend doing it, especially when you have two of them tied together. So you can't really play one side, like evenly line up one. You kind of have to do both at the same time. You can do it. It's just, yeah. It's okay, you don't want to know how many times I've sent a carriage flying across the room because I forgot that I didn't have stoppers on it and just picked a rail up and just went whoop. Okay, so where were we? So I need to put 4 in the back here because it looks like, yeah, 4. We are going to be putting on the rest of everything here. So let's see here. It's going to take a quick second here. Somebody ping me on Discord. If you're trying to contact me on Discord while I'm streaming, do it in the chat. Just trying to watch both at the same time. It's kind of a... There we go. Okay. Yeah, I fixed it, Ray. Like a boss. Okay. So 4 and 6. So this side gets... I'm assuming the side with 6 is the switch wire, or the switch wire pocket watch. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Two, 4, 5, 6. Put some stoppers in so I'm not losing these everywhere. Yes, there will be, everything will be on my YouTube channel afterwards. Obviously, it'll be in 2 parts now because it decided to crash at the beginning there. But it will be on here. Thank you, YouTube. Yeah, they changed. I don't like what they've done with the interface for streaming. Because now it like auto launches, but you have to launch it to go into another menu to schedule a stream. But then when you go to schedule it, it'll be like, oh, you already have one active. It's like, I didn't want to activate that one. You automatically made it activated. Yeah, good enough. Yeah, honestly, all these nuts is the most annoying part of the Vzero build. Once you get the frame together, it's not too bad. Okay, so let's see here. So I'm just trying to orientate this the same way. Okay, so 2 M310s. M312s. Okay, so that's a 12, that's a 10. I know the design calls out for a lot of socket heads in these positions, but you can use button head just fine. Or it calls out for button head, you can use socket head just fine. In pretty much all of them. Okay, so I need to slide 2 in here. And drop 1. And that is the 12 mil. Chris Ankle, $5. Thank you, man. Appreciate it. Glad they're helping. That's why I do these streams. They help people with their builds. I know a lot of people can't just quite follow a manual, or it's easier with visual aids. I know I'm one of those. So if this will save somebody from pulling their hair out, I'll gladly do it. And as you can see, now you know not to put your bed on backwards. Back to the manual. Okay, so now I put the block in there. Oh, it goes like that. Okay. Just fits so you can spin it. Hello from Germany. Hello from Canada. I know it's pretty late there. What are you doing up so late? Bedtime. Yeah, you guys, I know UK's 5 hours ahead. Germany's more. Okay, so now it's time to put this in. Yep, if you need to move the nuts around, just hold it on a slight angle and just gently tap it until they kind of shift into place. Also, if you have a hex driver that is magnetic, it will come in very handy with this build. Conversely, tweezers also help a lot too. Except when they don't. Damn it. In case you can't tell, I've been up since 6:30 this morning. Get in your hole. There we go. Okay. Hello, Nero. Just founded Voron. Think it's super cool. Thank you and your team for making such an awesome DIY 3D printer project. I have a question. What does serial request do? Okay, so the whole point with the serial system, it started off with, for all those who do ask about why isn't Voron a company, MZ Bot, which is what Russian Cat Food created, was originally a company. He built one printer and got out of the company business and just started going the DIY rep rap route. But basically, to get Voron started, he sold, I believe it was 10 kits for the original V1.0. And as people built them, they got a serial number. It was just kind of a thing. And the thing is, once people started building them on their own, they requested a serial too, and it just kind of grew from there. So it's just kind of a fun thing, like, hey, I built one. The minimum requirements to get a serial is build it, have it cable managed properly so it looks good, and have it printing. So it's not like super hard to get a serial. If you follow the manual and you wire it up and make it look good. And the reason for wiring, if you look at, go to the R3D printing subreddit and take a look at a lot of rep wraps, they're rat's nests. You have just cables hanging everywhere, and just the thing with Voron is supposed to look good, because take pride in your work. So yeah, just cable managed, and then you post on the subreddit. We are working to get a standalone website because we're getting swamped with the sheer number of serials now. So if your serial, you haven't got one yet, just hang on. It's a lot of work. But yeah, it's basically just something kind of fun. Like, oh, hey, I built one. Like, that's V226, that's VS2. And then I haven't put a serial request in for Tallboy yet because I'm still waiting on my flex plate. And I'm not putting a serial request in for a Voron with painter's tape on the bed. So, yeah. And this is V003. As you can see, it's not exactly a functional printer yet. Okay, so the backplate. I do not have the backplate. I'm going to have to print this. So it looks like that's about as far as we're going to go with that. Because I think... oh no, I could put... Yeah, I could... Yeah, start putting all that in. I think I could put the backplate on later. I can skip the backplate for now. Oh, preload the nuts, yeah. Let's see here. Oh, bring up the manual. So yeah, it's calling to put the backplate in. I don't have the backplate. I printed one, and it's an old design, so I'm going to have to move on from there. So that might be as far as we get for now. So we might hold off there, and I'll print this off, and then next week we'll continue on from there. Because I know people keep asking some switchwire stuff. So I think I'm going to pull over the switchwire, and we'll go through that for a little bit. And then we'll call it. Because unfortunately, I really don't want to have to step back. I want to follow this to the manual so those building at home can follow along to the manual. So, because I know putting this backplate in by itself is kind of a pain. It's kind of a big pain. So, yeah, screw it. I'll print it and do it myself later. Carry on with the build. Let's see here. For the build plate, is there a disadvantage to using flat stick-on magnet from Energetic? That's what I use. I use the Energetic magnets. My finger wasn't there. They work just fine. I have one on V226 here. It's been printing ABS for half a year. I haven't had any lifting issues. I know some people have. I'm really kind of anal when it comes to how I attach stuff to the bed. I use a lot of weight. I make sure it's really clean. The surface is prepped perfectly and everything. So I haven't had any real issues in that regard. But I haven't had any issues with the Energetic magnets. Can I do a software video? Yes. So I'm going to be going through the whole setup of Vzero here. I know I skipped it with Tallboy where I skipped the Clipper install, but this I will be going through how to install Clipper. I'm probably going to actually be trying Mainsail because I got a right now my Raspberry Pi Zero is literally just the webcam for 26 here, because this runs Duet still, and Duet doesn't have webcam support. So I might swap a Raspberry Pi Zero into this guy, and then show you how to install Mainsail and Clipper. So yeah, actually, we're gonna hold there. So we got this portion done for now. Next week, I'll have that part printed off. We'll continue with the frame and go from there. So we're actually making pretty good time. But I know people are going to want to see the switch wire, so I'm going to pull the switch wire out, and I'll entertain you with that guy for a bit. Because I really don't want to have to jump back and forth with the manual. I want to follow the manual for those that'll be watching in the future. So, put this stuff, put that up here for now. Back in the box. Yes, technically the Zero is a more complicated build. Simply for the fact is there is an exact order of operations and you have to follow it. Otherwise, you're going to be taking stuff apart. You're going to be jumping back and forth, which is why I'm holding the build for now. I need to print that back plate. Unless, let me take a look here. No, I'm not going to cut it out of Coroplast. That would be, yeah, I'm not going to use Coroplast. No Coroplast. I use enough Coroplast. Okay. So, switch wire. I know I wasn't on the live stream when we announced it, but it's a Core XE printer. Plug it. I don't have a proper webcam mount for it yet, so the webcam just kind of hangs out of the bottom, and I put it on a box. So that is switch wire. Let me get it some power. Just waiting for, because right now it actually is running Octoprint. I don't have Mainsail on it because the SD card that I just kind of threw in here to install Clipper already had Octoprint on it, and it was late at night, and I was just trying to get it up and running. So, this is Mainsail. So, or this is switch wire. Obviously, Core XZ, so there's no lead screws, no wobble. Your Z just kind of moves up and down, just like a Core XY. Gantry moves back and forth. It is counterweighted, so it doesn't drop. So a lot of people think, you know, Core XE, your gantry is going to drop. Like if you ever built a V2, a V1, or any Core XY, and you flip it on its back, your gantry drops down. We got the counterweight at the back, so it doesn't really move on you. But the advantage is it moves fast. You basically don't have to worry about Z hop speed time. Yeah, what is it? Bed mesh calibrate? So I know somebody was asking about the comparing the bed mesh to the Prusa. Let me just pull it up here. Actually, I have it saved, I think. Yeah, bed mesh. Calibrate. That's what it is. Question: when using the mosquito hot end, some of the plastic melt off because of the size. Which is the best? Which of the part melts so I can print them in PC? Oh, that would be, if you're using the mosquito, it would be the fan ducts. I know people have had issues with them getting a little melty. We've changed the design a bit so there's more clearance. I haven't had the melty issue on Tallboy yet, and I'm just using regular PC. But it would just be the fan ducts you'd have to worry about. So yeah, so Core XZ allows you to do a bed mesh this quick, where it just, you don't have to worry. 50 millimeters a second Z travel is nothing. I don't know when it was updated. It was updated a while ago. So if you have the latest revision, you should be fine. So yeah. G1Z 100 F 12,000. Oh, I think I have, it's firmware limited. But yeah, so that's switchwire. People are asking about it at the beginning of the stream, and then I pull it out and everyone inquires up about it. How well does the tensioning system work? Do you think they'll replace it with spring or something more robust? Andrew, are you referring to the counterbalance weight on the switch wire? Well, the counterbalance, let me pull it up here. It's called a keyback. It's basically a very good keychain. Pull up Amazon here. So the thing is with it, it's very cheap. I think it's only like $12 Canadian, so like $10 US, and it's rated for 1 million or something. Let me pull it up right here. It's rated for a lot of repetitive use, put it that way. Oh god, don't tell me it's sold out on Amazon now. Oh, where'd it go? Where'd it go? Okay, there's knockoffs. It's already knockoffs. There we go. Okay. So this is the keyback. This is what we use for the counterweight. It's literally a keychain. Like if you these are for like prison, like prisoners or prison guards that have like 1 million keys hanging off of it, and or cops or whatever. They're meant for super heavy duty key retention. It uses a Kevlar string, and it's rated for 1 million retractions. And that's full retraction. So I don't think we're going to be wearing through these anytime soon. You can get a 20-ounce one too. So it's 13-ounce one basically cancels out something like 350 grams of weight off the gantry. Because like right now, okay, yeah, you know, the motors have been running, so they're locked in position. But you know, on your V2, when you kill power, the gantry does slightly drop a couple steps. With this, you kill power, and it just stays. So theoretically, now you can. This is the first Voron, other than the V0, that you technically could do like a power resume. You don't have to worry about losing your Z position on power off because it stays in position, and it stays. Now this is something that CNC machines have had for ages. It's been super common with CNC machines where you have a counterbalance. You have pistons, you have springs, you have something to counteract the weight of your tool head and your Z-axis, because when your motor has to fight against gravity and the weight of the item, you lose a lot of performance. So with 3D printer, with them being mostly so light, it's never really been an issue. Plus with lead screws, you have the extra friction, where you've needed a counterbalance or a counterweight to your gantry. But once you go Core XZ, then you don't have that, because you have just the latent gearing of the motor to fight gravity, which obviously isn't enough. So I think this is like the first printer that I've seen that actually has some sort of counterbalance weight in it. So could you use 2020 extrusions for switchwire? You would have to redesign some of the parts, because like the XZ idlers are meant to mount to 3030. The only 2020 on this guy actually is just your Y rail and your X rail. Everything else is 3030, and then it's 3060 for your frame. And then it is meant to use the afterburner tool head, so you could do the direct drive or the Bowden setup. So yeah, so it gets over a lot of the issues that lead screw drives have. So you're not worrying about lead screw induced wobble at all, as I know a lot of people have that issue with the Vzero. So you have no lead screw wobble to deal with. You have a fast Z motion, so you have faster homing, you have faster bend meshing, you have faster Z hops. That's the big one. If you ever run a print like the it's upstairs, the Eiffel Tower, where you're doing 1 million Z hops over 24 hours. If you can cut your Z-hop time in a quarter or more, that is a significant amount of time. It does add up. Seconds add up. And it's lighter, and it's cheaper. Because if you want to use lead screws, you technically want integrated lead screws with the motor. Those are like $20 to $40 each, depending on where you get them. Whereas this is literally 20 idlers, some belt, and 2 motors. So, your hot end mixing, if you're asking how it's going, not too well. I've yet to get a fully functional finished print off of it. I keep having jamming issues. When it swaps between the two, every now and then it gets a clog and it jams up, and then that's it. So this actually had the Dragon in it. I took the Dragon out because just the limiting issues. So right now it only has a V6 in it, and the Dragon I'll actually just probably throw in the Vzero now. So we'll probably use a Dragon in there. So probably call the stream at 10 o'clock. So just a short 2-hour stream tonight. Next week's will be longer. I'll make sure I have everything for the Vzero. So we'll just power on that for a few hours. Hopefully get the frame all assembled. And we'll go on from there. Is there a way to get slicer estimated time to accurate when you print with the Voron? So I know with Cura, if you go into Cura and turn on acceleration control, you basically want to have all the settings enabled that control print speeds in any form or function. So that way when it does the calculation for print time, it has all that information. What is the long-term opinion? So far, it prints great. The only issue I'm having with it, and I think this is because I have the V1 version, I know this is not an issue with the V2 version, is, let me see if I can find it. Let me grab a piece. So, when you retract, you get a little bit of a bulb, and I'm having an issue where when it feeds in, it's catching ever so slightly at the very tip because it doesn't line up quite perfect. Now, this is fixed in the V2 issue, or V2 Dragon, it's a non-issue. And it's really only an issue if you're trying to do dual extrusion. But to eliminate the potential of this being the error, I swapped it to a V2 and or a V6, and the issue is still there, not as bad, but it's still kind of there. So I'm thinking it's something else causing it. But as for upgrading it, I would go with a Dragon over a V6 all day, every day, if I had both in front of me. For your average print, like if you're just using single extrusion, yeah, get one. How do you orientate the Dragon heat block? I have routing issues for a heated cable on V2.4. Do I have filament loaded in this? Yeah, I do have filament. Oh, here we go. Okay. So, basically you're going to route it the same as I have this mosquito. So, this is a mosquito. This is a dragon. So with the dragon, you're going to want to, if you're looking at it, you know how one side of the heater block sticks out further than the other side? So the side that actually has the heater in it is going to be forward, okay? So you're going to have it going towards the front, because if you have it going towards the back, you won't have room for your probe. It won't clear. Now, as for the wires, you run them out the side, and then you zip tie them to the side of the fan, or the cooling duct, and then up. So that's how you would run your wires on the tool head. Actually, I just took this guy apart. So yep, DJ, that's how you run the wires. So yeah, so once the Vzero build's done, obviously, I'll swap over to doing some videos on this guy. But as I said, there really isn't much to it. Pretty much every component, if you download the CAD and look at it, every portion of the assembly is like 2 or 3 printed parts. So, ferrules? What issues are you having with the ferrules? Like, are you talking about the, like these little guys? Any dual extrusion prints? No, I cannot, because I haven't been able to get it to work properly yet. So, unfortunately, I don't have any finished prints. It has a habit of jamming, basically. It'll print for a while, it'll do a few filament swaps fine, but then something will jam up the hot end, and then it's just chewing filament, and then it skips a few layers and it's done. So the dual extrusion hot end on here, this isn't using a T splitter or a Y splitter. This is it's a printed Y splitter. It's just something we're trying. I don't think that's what's causing the issue. I think it's just I don't have my settings right yet. I've only been playing with the dual extrusion for a few days now. So it's it's definitely beta. But like single extrusion, it prints fine. Like it's your generic, benchy. It's like every other benchy ever. Like this was printed on here, but I can't get dual extrusion. So individually they work just fine. It's just they don't want to work together too well. Oh, okay. So if depending on what you have for your wires, what I would recommend is like the way I have mine on switchwire here. I have the connector right here, so they come up and then the wires go into. In this case, because it's a bone-in setup, it doesn't have the shroud. It would go into the shroud. What you can also do is cut them and solder on some 20 gauge wire if you want to extend them. Oh, the rigid ferrules. Are you talking about like down at the bottom? Yeah, I use Physek heaters. They're more pliable, I found. Yeah, Kyle, I do have I do run a retract and RAM setup. It works for a while, and then all of a sudden it just doesn't work, and then it starts chewing filament because it cooks some filament in the end, and then it just stops working. So, do I have a link for the? It is the V2.1 spool holder, I believe, and all I did was chop off the tab so that it doesn't sit. Oh, it doesn't have to worry about a panel anymore. So it's just flat mount. So it's just the V2.1 or V2.0 spool holder. It's just, I had the file on hand, so I quickly just hacked that up. Dark, what are the chances the Voron would have its own slice per Doubt it. Nobody's really working on it internally. We have profiles in Cura that are official. That's about it. Yeah, Kyle, that's what I'm thinking. It has to do with the feed in. It's just every now and then it gets a jam. Like I'm heating it up right now. I'll show you. I'll run the print just to start it off. And then if it does happen to finish, I'll take a picture, but I don't think it's going to. Yeah, a lot of people are Super Slicer, Prusa Slicer. I know Super Slicer is starting to get some traction. Personally, I've been using Cura forever, and I haven't had any issues with it. But with this guy, I'll probably start trying out. I know Prusa Slicer has some built-in good dual extrusion commands, so I'll probably swap over to that, give that a try tomorrow. But we'll see for now. I will say though, the PCB bed, the good thing with the PCB bed is once it heats up, like you don't have to worry about like the bed on the V2 where you have to let it get to temperature and then kind of heat soak through. This, once it gets to temperature, it's at temperature. And since it's such a small object, I don't really worry too much about the bed mesh. So I'll start a print here just so you guys can see. So the good thing with the bed flapper, I don't have to worry about the gantry moving on me. Yeah, I don't think you'll be able to see that. Yeah, that's kind of crap. Focus. There we go. Mm-hmm. And then, yes, the fans are whiny. I buy cheap fans. My printers run in a room by themselves. I really don't care about fan noise. Yeah, take care, Andrew. I know today wasn't quite as long of a build. We only spent about an hour and a half building. But I really want to follow it to the manual. So I'm going to have that back piece printed. And we'll move on from there. That's good to hear, Paul. It's always good whenever the videos help somebody gets it built. Hopefully you didn't follow how to let the smoke out of your power supply like on my on the Tallboy build. But yeah. Luckily that didn't happen with this guy. Because this guy's got a power supply. It's a 350 watt meanwhile. So every now and then the fan on the power supply kicks in when both the bed and the heater are going at the same time. But so for homing on this, obviously there's no Hall effect. It's just straight to KW10s. You can use the Omron ones if you want, or the 10-cent ones off AliExpress. But it's just XY homing. The only homing that worries about for accuracy is your Z. And then for the extruders, they're dual standalone jet packs. So the way I have it set up, it does a home, it does a quick bed mesh, and then it does a home again, and then it starts printing. Yeah, the software, I might do it with Octoprint. It depends on the state of mainsail. I know it's close to being almost, mainstream release. It's still technically beta though. So depending on the state of mainsail, is if I'll use mainsail or Octoprint for the install of Clipper, because I want to use what most people will be using. Okay, yeah, that's extruding. Any update on Gal? I haven't been. I've been busy with this guy, so I don't have any Galileo hardware, unfortunately, to try out. But you could put a Galileo on this. Anything that takes the afterburner tool head, you could put a Galileo on. It's just a different extruder. And I think my Z offset is a little too close, but I'm not too concerned. So print volume that I'm actually getting out of here, I got 240 on the Y, or yeah, on the Y I got 250 on the X. And the only downside is, and it's one thing we actually talked about in design that I completely forgot about, is if you come up high enough, depending on how your belts are, or your chain link, like I know a lot of people have the drag chains through this big bow, you actually can strike your belts. So we do need to put in a guard up here, just a quick printed guard to prevent your drag chain from hitting that at max Z. But other than that, I think I have it limited to about 230 on the Z. So it has more volume than a Prusa. Paul, what is Galileo? Galileo is basically, it's not an official Voron. It's a mod that's established though, but it's a actually I don't know. It's basically a geared extruder. It's a planetary gear extruder. Maybe it's the PTFE tube. That is one of the first things I tried. I do have cap tubing. I tried that first, and it was causing issues. So I swatched over to the generic, more OD, and I'm still having the issue. So I don't think it's the tubing. Like you'll see here when it does the retraction. Yeah, I have Capricorn. Like I got Capricorn tubing. I got generic AliExpress knockoff. I got black generic AliExpress knockoff. Okay, so right now what it does is it does a quick extrude, waits a second for it to cool, pulls the rest out, and then it feeds the rest in quick from the other side. And then feeds the rest in, and then that's it. Yeah, that's feed. So when it comes to print volume though, honestly build what you need, because if you build more, it's just more volume that you got to heat. There's more issues with your printer. The smaller your printer, the faster you can run it, the more tuned it can be. I've always been a fan of build what you need. The very first printer I built after having a monoprice Select Mini with my V1, which was 300 by 300 by 400, and the very next printer I built with a 250 V2. And I've only had issues when it comes to what I need in terms of print volume on my 250 once or twice. And you can always, with ABS, acetone weld. So is the MGM12 afterburner an adapter, or is it an integrated? Yes, on this one it is its own. Basically, the mount portion is different, so you can't take an afterburner off of like a V2 and slap it on here. The extruder and the hot end mounts. So basically, everything but the actual part that attaches to the rail is the same. Yeah, only the mount is different, basically. Just the claw parts. I don't have any. Maybe I do. Yeah. So the only difference are these two parts. Because the belts attach down here now too. $15.15 on MGM12. You might have an issue. I'm not sure. Where is that? There. Okay, so 15.15 MGM12. Like, it'll fit, but it's kind of big. Yeah, you can hear it catching. Explain the differences between nozzle types. Okay, so a ruby nozzle, don't bother. It basically comes down to what you're printing. If you're printing something that's abrasive, you're going to wear out your brass nozzle. If you're not printing out something that's abrasive, so if you're just printing generic ABS, PLA, PETG, that's not glow in the dark or doesn't have carbon fiber in it, it's just generic bulk plastic, get brass. It has the best thermals that you can get. Now, another upgrade you can get, and what I run on my machines, is copper that is nickel plated. I think it's nickel plated, whatever. Triangle Labs sells it. It's plated copper nozzle. The plating on it prevents buildup, and copper is a better thermal conductor because you want to put as much heat into the plastic at the nozzle as you can. Now, if you're printing something that will wear away a soft nozzle that's made out of brass or copper, you're going to want to look at something hardened, so like hardened steel or Nozzle X or vanadium or whatever, any of the fancy stuff. The downside with that is they usually don't have as good thermals, so you usually have to run your heater block hotter because you're not going to be able to push as much heat into the nozzle than you can with a more thermally conductive metal. Ruby is basically, honestly, fancy marketing. It's like a nozzle in a nozzle. It's got an insert. I've seen so many issues with it, and I don't see any point to really requiring it. As you can see, it's kind of working. I got two separate colors. Usually what happens, it'll be fine for about an hour, and then it'll jam, and then it'll just start printing there. The blinky light, that is the LED saying the heat bed is on. I guess it's a feature on a Mark 52 bed. The Prusas have it, and this is a Triangle Lab one, have it too, because they just copy. They're probably just the same OEM manufacturer anyways. But it's basically just letting you know the heat bed's on. It's just got a blinky light. Have I ever taken a look at tungsten carbide? Tungsten carbide would be, it's super dense. You're going to get thermal transfer. It's hard. I don't print any abrasives, so I really don't need anything hardened. These copper-plated nozzles that I've been using, I have thousands of hours on them. I've yet to wear one out remotely, so yeah. Yeah, Chris, basically I just let it run, and then I have a webcam watching it, and I'll keep an eye out for my computer upstairs, and if I start noticing it's printing in air, then I'll cancel a print. So we got to figure out a webcam mount. Luckily with this thing, a webcam mount will be relatively easy. You probably could just, stick it right about there. So you could have it in your enclosure. You can just have it coming off the 30-30 here. You could have it literally sitting right there, and you're fine. So webcam mount for the switchwire will be the easiest Voron to put a webcam on. Hopefully. Well, it should be. It's not always an hour. Sometimes it's like 20 minutes in. It's usually after a few, because I've done a print where it would just change color, like I did the traffic cone, and that made it several hours before it had issues. It's an issue on the filament changeover, I think, more than anything. I don't think it's a heat creep. I'm also running a titanium heat break in this guy. AliExpress shipping getting anywhere back to normal. It really depends. I'm in Canada. Mine was crap for a while, and then it was really good, and now it's kind of iffy again. So honestly, just order it. If it shows up, it shows up. If not, dispute it. I also might rebuild that jetpack because I think the extruder gear I have in it isn't the greatest. It's one of the first revisions of the knockoff BMG gears. Yeah, it's working. Oh yeah, the new issue for shipping in the U.S. Let me see here. Somebody linked it in the Discord. So, for you Americans, I kind of feel sorry for you guys. No, not USPS. Your fearless leader. Looking into whether US should ban Chinese tech giant Alibaba. Alibaba owns AliExpress. Yeah. That sucks. Now, granted, if you're buying stuff off Amazon, 90% of what you're buying off Amazon, when it comes to 3D printer stuff, is just pretty much stuff that's drop shipped from AliExpress anyways. So it's not like you're buying better stuff, because I know a lot of people are like, oh, I only buy made in America stuff, and they link me the item, and it's the same item you get off AliExpress. You're just paying more to get it off Amazon. But, yeah. GK, it's not warping. I know for sure it's not warping. Because I've had this happen on layer 2. I've had this happen on layer 32. Like, it's a complete random issue. I'm pretty sure something's getting caught and jamming it up. Because the issue I'm having is it'll jam and then it'll come down and I can literally just push filament through by hand. And then it's fine. So I'm thinking what's happening is on the retract, it's leaving like a little... normally the retractions are pretty clean. But every now and then it leaves a string, and I think the string is causing a jam somewhere, and it's just fouling it up, and then once it's jammed, it just starts grinding filament, and then it's done pretty much. Yeah, see, Kit, I'm in Canada, so I don't have to worry about all that fun stuff. Yep, there it is right there. So you can see, it just jammed up. Yep. So, cancel print. Yes, cancel the print. Turn the bed off. Keep the hot end hot though. Raise it up. So what usually happens yeah, you can see that's my issue. So obviously it's my retract, it's not clean enough. I'll have to play with that. As I said, this is still all new to me. Like I've never played with dual extrusion before. I think I played with the settings. One of the last things I changed was how much it retracted before it did the full retract. You can see it's doing that. So yeah, that's not good. That's what's causing my issue. So live and learn. Like, this is all new to me. This is a full test bed for me. I've never played with dual extrusion before. I'm doing it all for the first time. So, learning experience. I know somebody who has a Voron that has a working Y splitter. They use Prusa Slicer, and it does this part. It got built-in code for it automatically, and they don't have issues like this. So I might tomorrow give Prusa Slicer a trace, and or give Prusa Slicer a try, and see how that works out. Get rid of some of this crappiness. Yep. What material? It's PLA. This is just, I don't even know, generic PLA. It's just a black spool. This is iPrint 3D, which is a Canadian seller, which their stuff's pretty good. I like their ABS. So it's just 2 different generic brands of PLA, which should feed just fine. Because obviously, like, once I can feed it through by hand, just fine. Like, it's not jammed. It's like a straight up traffic jam more than anything. So, yay, flex plates. And whenever you take your flex plate off, when you go to put it back on, always double check the bottom. Make sure you don't have any like stringers or anything caught to it. Because if you do, you're going to have a bad time, because you're going to end up pushing it into your bed or scratching something or whatever. It's not good. So yeah, so I think we're going to call it there for tonight, boys. Kind of a mixed up stream. I didn't really know if I had the chance to stream tonight. So everything was kind of last minute on my end for the setup. But next week I'll have everything ready to go. We'll continue on with our a build. I'm actually going to run that bottom plate off tonight, or that back plate. Tip for those who don't like the appearance of a printed part, do what I did, print it, and then just hit it with some like bed liner or something just to give it an effect. I've seen people vinyl wrap them too. So, what I normally do, the last like 5-10 minutes, I leave it running while I clean up for any final questions, and then I call it a night after that. Oh, as for weight, this thing's actually quite heavy, because there's actually quite a bit to it. And if you're curious, that's the bottom. So you got the power supply. I got a buck converter for the 2 12-volt fans. I got a SKR 1.3. I believe spec is the E Mini, because if you're running spec, you only have 1 extruder. I'm running 2, so I needed 5 motors. I got a Raspberry Pi 3, 25 volt or 25 watt 5 volt power supply for the Raspberry Pi, a Y motor, power inlet. It's a pretty generic setup. Like nothing super fancy. Pretty much you can use, it's designed to be able to use whatever you have. So if you're if you have an Ender 3 bed you want to use, a 24 volt Ender 3 bed, I recommend use at least 24 volt though. But if you want to use an Ender 3 bed, all you would do is just scale the extrusions so you're not having all the extra, or just still make it 250 and just have extra space on each side. It's only going to cost you a couple bucks more. And it is designed to be enclosed with panels. So kind of like how the V2, you can slap panels on the side. Mine I can't, because I got spool holders sticking out the sides and I got extruders sitting on top. But you can slap panels on the direct feed version on all 4 sides, or 5, 6 sides, and do it that way. If you saw the stream, you can see how it's done. What would the wiring look like if I want to run 4 fans instead of 2 and 2.4? 4 fans where? Because it really depends on what motors you or what controller you have. Are there any problems with putting vinyl stickers inside the 2.2 chamber? I've seen people put them on. People are getting the. Do I have any? I might have some. Yeah, like these kind of stickers. Like, I know people are buying some of these and sticking them on the motors. And if it's fine on the motors, it should be fine. The worst that'll happen is it'll fall off. So go for it. Oh, if you want to put 4 fans, I would just wire them in series. I think it is series or parallel. Just daisy chain them. So hook all the positives to one wire and all the negatives to one wire, and then just hook them all up to the same. As long as you don't go over the amp limit of whatever you're hooking up to run it, control it. That's what I would do. Like right now, this guy has 2 fans in it, and I just have both positives soldered together to a single wire and both negatives to a single wire, and then hooked up to the buck converter. So now, if you run them all independent, parallel. If you want to run them all independent, though, you're going to need more controllers. You could use available pins and then a separate MOSFET module to control the fans if you want to go that route. Opinion on shoulder bolts. Shoulder bolts are good. Will you get performance increases that are visible? I'm not 100% sure yet. I haven't really seen the need for them. But if you have them and you want to use them, it's a Gucci thing that you can do. That it's not going to hurt, obviously. I know some people were looking at shoulder bolts for the front idlers on the V2/V1. And I believe those are functional, but I haven't actually looked into the results to see if it's like a worthy thing. Pretty much, yeah, with more data needed, at least in my opinion. I use them at work all the time, but that's work, and that's not 3D printing. Okay, everyone, so I'm going to call it there. Hope everyone enjoyed the stream. I know it was supposed to be a V0 build, and we did do some, but we didn't get as far as I'd hoped, but next week we'll make up for it. Thank you all for spending your time with me tonight. Hope I kept you entertained, and I hope I helped you with your builds. And I want you all to take care. Keep washing your hands, wear your masks, and have a good one. Enjoy the rest of your weekend.